I remember the night he showed up at my door like it had always been his backup plan. No warning, no text. Just a knock at 11:42 p.m., the sound too hesitant to be from anyone else. It had been a while since I'd seen him, really seen him. Our friendship had drifted somewhere between quiet distance and selective memory after he started dating her. And I had told myself I was okay with that. I played the role I was supposed to. The supportive best friend, the guy who knew how to step back when someone he loved didn't love him like that. When someone chose someone else. But that night, when I opened the door and saw his face, red-rimmed eyes, messed up hair, hoodie hanging off one shoulder, all that careful distance collapsed. His lips trembled, and for a second I thought he might speak. Instead, he exhaled, deep and ragged, and walked in like my apartment was the only place left in the world that felt remotely safe. "She broke up with me," he said, after a few long minutes of silence. I didn't say anything at first, just watched as he dropped his bag on the floor and slumped onto my couch like his bones had given up. I had imagined 100 versions of this moment, the moment he'd finally come back. But none of them looked like this. None of them had his voice so hollow or his shoulders so caved in. There was this weight in the room that hadn't been there before. The kind of silence that begs you to say something but dares you to say the wrong thing. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I brought him a glass of water and sat on the opposite end of the couch, pretending I wasn't dying to move closer. He stared ahead like the walls were talking to him. "I thought she was it, man. Like, I really did." He sniffed, and then chuckled bitterly. "She said I was too emotionally dependent, that I didn't know who I was without her. And maybe she was right. There was something gutting about watching him unravel. Not just because he was hurting, but because it made me realize how much of him I hadn't seen in so long. How much of himself he had poured into that relationship, while I stood just outside the frame, waiting for something that was never mine to claim. "You're not too much," I said quietly. He turned to look at me, really look. And for a moment, I saw the boy I used to pull all-nighters with, the one who could laugh until he cried, the one who used to fall asleep mid-sentence on my floor after movie marathons and late-night ramen. "I missed this," he said, almost in a whisper. "I missed you." And that broke me in ways I hadn't prepared for. He asked if he could crash for the night, and I nodded. It was unspoken, but understood. The couch was his. It always had been, in some weird, unspoken contract of our friendship. I gave him a blanket and a pillow, made sure he had everything he needed, and told him I'd be in my room if he wanted anything. I went to bed feeling like I was 17 again, dizzy with emotion and trying to outrun it. But somewhere around 2 a.m., I woke up to the softest knock on my door. I opened it and found him standing there, blanket in one hand, eyes too tired to lie. "Can I? I just don't want to be alone right now." I didn't hesitate. I moved over. He climbed into bed like it was something he'd done 1,000 times before. No questions, no awkwardness. Just him, curling into my side, tucking his head under my chin, and breathing like he hadn't been able to for weeks. I laid there frozen, not because I was uncomfortable, but because I didn't trust myself not to fall apart. He was warm, his body molded to mine like it belonged there. And I knew I was still in love with him. But to him, this was comfort. This was grief. This was a friend helping him not drown in his own heartbreak. To me, it was everything I'd ever wanted and couldn't have. He whispered something just before sleep took him. "Thank you for still being here." And I didn't say it out loud, but in my mind I whispered back, "I never really left." The morning after was a strange kind of beautiful. When I opened my eyes, the light was pouring in through the blinds. Soft, golden warm. He was still there, his head resting on my shoulder, one arm wrapped around my waist like it was instinct. His breath was steady now, slower, softer, like sleep had stitched him back together a little. And I didn't move, not right away, because I knew the moment he opened his eyes, things would change. The spell would break. Whatever excuse his heart had made for curling up next to me would be replaced by something practical. Something platonic. Something distant. So I let myself have that moment. Just a few seconds of pretending I was allowed to love him like that. But eventually he stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and for a brief, shining second, he didn't let go. He just looked up at me with this raw sort of vulnerability in his eyes, like he was still caught somewhere between a dream and reality. Then, slowly, he pulled his arm back. "Shit," he said, sitting up. "Sorry. I didn't mean to. That was probably weird." I shook my head, keeping my voice as calm as I could. "It's fine. You needed it. Don't apologize." He glanced down, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, I didn't sleep at all last week. Not really. It felt safe being here." I nodded. "You can stay as long as you want." He smiled, but there was this sadness behind it, like something was still sitting heavy on his chest. He didn't say much more that morning. Just got up, made a joke about how I still hadn't upgraded my coffee maker, and asked if I had any clean shirts. Felt like he was trying to make things normal again, like pretending nothing had happened in the night would somehow keep everything from tipping over. And I let him, because what else could I do? He stayed. For days, then weeks. At first, it was just until he figured things out. But life has a way of pulling people into strange routines. And soon, his toothbrush was beside mine, his socks were mixed in with my laundry, and we were cooking dinner together like it was the most natural thing in the world. He never talked about her much, just fragments here and there, like pieces of a puzzle he didn't want to solve anymore. And I never pushed. I let him lead. Some nights he fell asleep on the couch with the TV still glowing. Other nights he ended up in my bed again, without a word, without asking. He'd just slide in beside me, pull the blanket over himself, and fall asleep like he belonged there. And I let it happen, over and over, because every time he curled up next to me, I let myself hope that maybe it meant something more, that maybe I wasn't just the safety net after a fall. But hope is a dangerous thing. One night, I came home to find him on the balcony, barefoot, hoodie zipped up halfway, staring out into the night like he was waiting for something. Or someone. He didn't hear me at first, so I stood there quietly, watching him. The way the wind played with his hair. The way his fingers curled around the mug in his hands. The way his shoulders were hunched, but not quite like they used to be. Like he was healing just a little. Then he turned and saw me, and smiled. "Hey," he said. "Made you tea." I took the cup from him, and we stood in silence for a while, watching the city breathe beneath us. Then he spoke, carefully. "I've been thinking about her less." I glanced at him. "That's probably a good sign." He nodded. "Yeah, it is." There was something on his face I couldn't quite read. A quiet storm behind his eyes. Then he looked straight at me, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't look away. "You ever think we get too comfortable with people?" I hesitated. "What do you mean?" "Like, maybe comfort isn't always a good thing. Maybe it keeps us stuck." I looked down at my tea, trying to ignore the sting behind those words. "Do you feel stuck?" I asked softly. He didn't answer right away, just took a slow sip of his tea. "I don't know," he said. "Sometimes I feel like I'm using you, and that scares me." That was the moment. The exact moment my heart cracked. Just a little. Because even if he didn't mean to, even if he hadn't figured it all out yet, he was saying what I'd been afraid of all along. I swallowed hard. "You're not using me." He turned to me, eyes searching mine. "Aren't I? I'm here, taking up space in your life. Sleeping in your bed some nights like it's nothing. Like it doesn't mean anything." I looked away. "Does it?" Silence. Then, almost too quietly, "I don't know." And there it was. The truth I already knew, spoken out loud. I wanted to say something. Anything. But the words caught in my throat. So we stood there, side by side, each holding a cup of tea, both pretending we weren't breaking just a little more by the minute. The days after that were quieter. Not in a cold or awkward way, just quieter, like something between us had shifted, and neither of us knew how to name it. He still stayed, still made breakfast with me in the mornings, still laughed at my dumb jokes, still asked how my day was after work. But he didn't come into my bed again, and I didn't ask why. We existed in this delicate balance, close but careful, like two people walking along a frozen lake, afraid to take one wrong step and hear the ice crack beneath them. And I kept wondering, what are we now? I started picking up little things he left lying around. His charger on the kitchen counter. His hoodie draped over the back of a chair. His sneakers by the door. I held onto each one longer than I should have, like they might give me an answer. Some nights, when I was alone, I'd lie in bed and stare at the ceiling, replaying every word he'd said on that balcony. Maybe I'm using you. I don't know. It echoed, loud in the silence. And yet, I still couldn't ask him to leave, because he wasn't just a guest. He was the quiet laughter that filled the apartment, the warmth that lingered on the couch cushions, the scent that clung to my sheets long after he got up in the morning. He was woven into everything, and I didn't know how to start unraveling that. Then came the night that changed everything. He came home later than usual. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half reading, half waiting. Something I hadn't admitted I did, even to myself. He looked different, not in a bad way, just thoughtful, tired, like his mind had been running miles all day. He dropped his bag, walked straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer, then leaned against the counter and looked at me. "You ever wonder why people don't just say what they mean?" he asked. I blinked, caught off guard. "All the time." He nodded, took a sip, then another. "I used to think it was fear," he said. "Like, if you say something real and the other person doesn't say it back, that's it. Game over." I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My heart was already pounding. He walked over and sat across from me, resting his elbows on the table. His eyes were on me now, not flickering, not dancing around, just steady. "I've been selfish," he said. I opened my mouth to protest, but he held up a hand. "No, let me say this." I closed it again, waited. "I came here broken, and you didn't ask for anything. You just gave. You were there. You let me grieve, and sleep next to you, and act like I wasn't breaking your heart even when I knew I probably was." The room was too quiet. I could feel every breath I took, shallow and shaking. "And I kept telling myself it didn't mean anything," he continued, "that it was just comfort, just survival. But that wasn't the truth." I stared at him, afraid to believe. "The truth is," he said softer now, "I felt more seen lying next to you in silence than I ever did lying in bed with her." He looked down at his hands. I didn't know how to say that before. I was scared of what it would mean, of what I'd have to admit. A long silence. Then he looked back up at me, and his voice cracked when he said it. "I think I've been in love with you longer than I've ever let myself believe." I stopped breathing. The words sat in the air like they had mass, like they were bending the world around them. "I don't know what it looks like," he added, almost desperately. "I don't know how to be that person yet. But I know I don't want to keep sleeping next to you pretending it's just a bed, or a phase, or something I'll grow out of." I stared at him, my throat burning, every part of me trembling. "Say something," he whispered. So I did. "I loved you before she ever broke your heart." His eyes closed like he'd been waiting to hear that for years. Maybe he had. I stood up, walked around the table, sat beside him. He looked at me like I was gravity. And then, slowly, I reached out and held his hand. No words, just that. And it felt like everything we'd been holding back, all the things we didn't say, all the nights of pretending, finally had a place to go. He leaned his head on my shoulder. "I'm scared," he said. "I know," I whispered. He turned toward me, his face inches from mine. "But I'm here." I nodded. "So am I." And for the first time, we didn't fall asleep pretending we were anything other than what we were. Two people tangled up in something real, finally brave enough to hold it. The morning after was different. Not in some dramatic, cinematic way, but in the quiet, subtle ways that matter most. He made coffee before I even got out of bed. I found him in the kitchen, barefoot, shirt wrinkled from sleep, humming a song I didn't recognize. When he saw me, he smiled, soft, easy, with none of the hesitation that used to hang between us. "Good morning," he said, like it meant more now, like it had weight. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching him move around like he belonged here. Because he did. Not just physically, but in all the ways that mattered. The way he fit into the rhythm of my life, the way he remembered how I liked my toast slightly burnt and my eggs scrambled with too much pepper. Everything felt a little lighter, like we'd finally stopped running. We didn't have a big talk. No dissecting feelings over breakfast or laying out a plan. It was just understood that something had shifted, that what was once one-sided years of quiet longing and unspoken truths had finally become something mutual. Later that afternoon, he suggested we go for a walk. No destination, just movement. The city was alive in that late summer kind of way, warm and sticky, the sidewalks buzzing with people and the smell of street food. We walked side by side, not touching, not rushing, just being. Then, without a word, he reached over and slid his fingers between mine. It was small, barely a gesture, but it unraveled something in me. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time he wasn't avoiding it, wasn't pretending. He smiled, eyes crinkling at the edges, and said, "This okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, it's more than okay." We kept walking. There was something about the simplicity of it that made it feel more real than any grand confession ever could. He wasn't curled up in my bed because he was sad or lost. He was holding my hand in daylight with the world watching because he wanted to. It was the clearest answer he could have given me. Over the next few weeks, the in-between moments became everything. The way he started leaving notes on the fridge. The way he'd sit beside me on the couch and rest his head on my shoulder while we watched dumb reality shows. The way he'd say goodnight like it meant I love you, even if he hadn't said those words yet. We weren't in a rush. Neither of us needed to be. But one night, as we were getting ready for bed, brushing our teeth side by side like some ridiculous domestic cliché, he caught my eye in the mirror. "You know I mean it, right?" he said, toothpaste foaming around the edges of his mouth. I laughed. "Mean what?" "That I'm here. That I want this." I turned to him, mouth still full of minty foam. "Yeah," I said. "I know." He leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. Messy, half toothpaste, completely perfect. It wasn't about the drama anymore. It wasn't about heartbreak or need or desperation. It was just us. And then one night, weeks after that first balcony conversation, after all the unspoken weight had turned into something solid and gentle, we lay in bed again, the lights off, the room quiet except for the hum of the city outside. He curled up next to me just like he used to, but this time he wasn't broken. He was home. I wrapped my arms around him, holding him close, and for the first time since the very beginning, I didn't feel like I had to brace for anything. I didn't have to hold back or wonder what it meant. I just held him, and he held me back, not like it was nothing, but like it was everything.